The mansion stood like a king among buildings. Tall, proud, silent, too silent. Inside the master bedroom, white and gold luxury dripping from every corner, Anthony sat on his bed, staring at nothing. 30 years old, handsome, powerful, rich enough to buy 3 countries and still have change for Suya. Yet sleep had rejected him like a bad loan application. He sighed deeply and checked the time. 12:29 a.m. He froze. Here we go again. He didn't even bother closing his eyes, because he already knew what would happen. And right on time, 12:30 a.m., his eyes snapped open, wide, alert, like someone whispered, "Owe me money," in his ear. Anthony groaned and fell back on the bed. Ah, sleep, what did I do to you? Did I offend your ancestors? Silence answered him, as usual. 5 years ago, everything had been different. His parents were alive. The house was noisy. His mother would shout from the kitchen, "Anthony, if you don't come and eat now, I will give your food to the dog." His father would laugh loudly. "Let the boy rest, woman. He is running companies, not chasing goats." Anthony would roll his eyes. "Daddy, please. I'm not chasing goats." "Good, because goats will defeat you." Laughter, warmth, life. Then, everything ended. A car accident. One phone call. One moment. Gone. Just like that. The funeral hadn't even ended when war began. His uncle, his cousin, family turned to competitors overnight. "You are too young to run this empire. Your father promised me shares. You don't understand business like us." Anthony had looked at them calmly. "Try me." And they did. Court cases, boardroom fights, betrayal, backstabbing. At some point, even the family lawyer started sweating like he was watching a Nollywood movie live. But Anthony, he didn't break. He fought and he won, every single time. He protected the empire, expanded it, multiplied it. But while he was winning outside, inside, he was losing something quietly. Sleep, peace, rest. Back to the present, Anthony got up and walked to the floor-to-ceiling window. The city lights glittered below, like stars that came down to Lagos just to show off. He folded his arms. "People are sleeping peacefully. Just like that," he muttered, as if sleep was free food being shared somewhere and nobody invited him. He turned back into the room. His bed looked soft, inviting, expensive, useless. "I bought you for comfort, not decoration," he told the bed. The bed said nothing, because even the bed had given up on him. Anthony had tried everything. One doctor had adjusted his glasses and said, "You need to relax your mind." Anthony blinked. "My mind runs companies. It doesn't relax." Another doctor prescribed strong sleeping pills. The result? Anthony slept, yes, but woke up looking like someone who borrowed sleep and couldn't pay back. Groggy, confused. Once he even greeted his driver. "Good afternoon, my shareholders." The driver almost resigned. Then came the herbalist, a serious-looking man with beads and confidence. "This one is spiritual," the man said. Anthony raised an eyebrow. "Sleep is now doing juju." The herbalist ignored him and gave him a dark, suspicious-looking liquid. "Drink this." Anthony sniffed it. "If I die, I will come back and sue you." He drank it anyway. That night, nothing happened, except stomach pain. Anthony sat in his luxury bathroom at 2 a.m. Wonderful. Now I can't sleep and my stomach is protesting. Then came the prayer warriors. They prayed, they shouted, they anointed. One even laid hands on his pillow like it was a stubborn demon. "You spirit of sleeplessness, come out," Anthony whispered. "If it comes out, please send it back inside my head." Nothing changed. The only person who understood him was Mama Grace. She knocked gently and entered his room the next morning. "Did you sleep?" Anthony looked at her. "Yes," she smiled. Then he added, "In my dreams." Her smile disappeared. She walked closer, adjusting his pillow like he was still a little boy. "You need peace, not medicine." Anthony sighed. "Mama Grace, If peace was for sale, I would have bought the factory. She laughed softly. My son, some things are not bought. He looked away. Then they should make it available for billionaires at least. Later that day, Mama Grace stood outside the mansion, holding her small travel bag. I will go to the village for a few days, she announced. Anthony frowned. Why? I need to see my people. He nodded slowly. Don't stay too long. She smiled knowingly. I won't. Then she added quietly, maybe I will bring something back for you. Anthony raised an eyebrow. Food? She shook her head. Better. He scoffed lightly. Unless you are bringing sleep inside your bag, I'm not interested. Mama Grace just smiled, a mysterious knowing smile. Oh, I might bring something even better than sleep. Anthony waved her off. Safe journey. As her car drove away, Anthony stood at the balcony, watching, unaware that somewhere in a small village, a loud, dramatic, unstoppable girl named Oma was about to enter his life and scatter everything. The village did not believe in silence. If a goat sneezed, 3 people would discuss it. If someone coughed, 5 elders would form a committee. So when Mama Grace arrived, the entire compound already knew before she stepped down from the car. Grace has come back from the land of money. See her skin, she is now shining like generator oil. Mama Grace laughed, adjusting her wrapper. Una no go kill me with greeting. She walked into her friend's house. The air was heavy, not with luxury like Anthony's mansion, but with struggle. Simple wooden chairs, a small table, a tired ceiling fan that rotated like it was doing the owner a favor. On the bed lay her friend, Oma's mother, weak but smiling. Grace, she said softly. Mama Grace rushed to her. What is this? Why are you lying down like government project? They both laughed weakly. I'm fine, just small sickness. Small sickness that is carrying you like this? Don't lie to me. They held hands, years of friendship sitting quietly between them. Outside, footsteps, fast, energetic. Then the door burst open. Oma entered like a whirlwind, sweaty, breathing hard, holding a nylon bag. Mama, I have brought the medicine. She froze, saw Mama Grace, paused, then screamed, Mama Grace? The nylon almost fell. She ran forward and hugged her dramatically. Ah, you have become fresh. Lagos is feeding you well, oh. Mama Grace laughed loudly. And you have grown into full noise. Oma pulled back proudly. Yes, I graduated from Talking Academy with first class. Her mother shook her head. This girl. Oma dropped the medicine and sat down, then immediately started talking. Mama Grace, you will not believe my life. I have finished school, no job. I have sense, no connection. I have beauty, no sponsor. Mama Grace burst into laughter. Your mouth will not kill you. Oma placed her hand on her chest dramatically. I am suffering with talent. Her mother coughed and laughed at the same time. Instead of helping me, you are doing stand-up comedy. Oma pointed at her. Mama, laughter is medicine. I am saving hospital bills. Mama Grace watched her carefully. Her energy, her heart, her light. Then she spoke. Oma, do you want to work? Oma froze. Work? Yes, in the city. Oma leaned forward. What kind of work? Legal work or don't ask questions work? Mama Grace slapped her arm lightly. Don't be stupid. Oma grinned. I'm listening. In a big house. As a maid. Silence. For the first time since she entered, Oma was quiet. Her eyes shifted to her mother, then back to Mama Grace. Will they pay? Yes. Good money? Yes. Oma stood up immediately. I accept. Her mother blinked. Just like that? Oma turned to her. Mama, at this point if they say I should wash lion, I will price it first, before refusing. Mama Grace laughed so hard she held her stomach. The next morning, the sun had barely risen, but Oma was already dressed, bag packed, energy at full volume. Her younger brother stood beside her, half asleep. Take care of Mama, she told him seriously. The boy nodded. I will. But who will disturb the house when you go? Oma gasped. You are calling me disturbance? I am entertainment. She hugged her mother tightly. I will send money. I will come back. One day I will carry all of you to the city. Her mother smiled weakly. My daughter, just be careful. Oma winked. Careful is my middle name. Mama Grace whispered, your middle name is Trouble. When the car entered Anthony's estate, Oma's mouth opened and refused to close. Wait, 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 she pointed at the mansion. Is this house or airport? Mama Grace chuckled. This is where you will work. Oma clutched her chest. If I faint, please pour water on me. Not too much, water is expensive. As they entered, the maids gathered, eyes sharp, ears ready, judgment activated. One whispered, this one looks like she talks too much. Another replied, she will talk herself out of this job. Oma heard them. Of course she did. She turned slowly, smiled brightly. Don't worry, I talk, but I also work, so you people will not miss me. One maid almost bit her tongue. Mama Grace knocked. Come in. They entered. Anthony sat behind his desk, calm, composed, intimidating. Oma saw him and froze for half a second. Handsome. Then her brain resumed. Good afternoon, sir, she said loudly. Anthony nodded slightly. Mama Grace spoke. This is the girl I told you about. Anthony looked at Oma, quiet, observing, judging. Oma shifted. Then suddenly, she started talking. Sir, I am very hardworking. I can clean, cook small, arrange, organize, supervise. Anthony raised an eyebrow. She continued, I can even wash your shoes until they reflect your future. Mama Grace covered her face. Oma kept going. I will wash your bed, sorry, not wash, arrange, unless you want me to wash it. Anthony blinked slowly. Then, a small laugh escaped him. Oma froze. Sir, you are laughing? Should I continue? He shook his head slightly. That's enough. Pause. Then, you're hired. Oma gasped loudly. Mama Grace, I have entered billionaire destiny. Anthony leaned back, shaking his head. For the first time in a long while, the office felt alive. As Oma followed Mama Grace out, she turned back slightly, looked at Anthony. Just for a second, he was already watching her. Quiet, curious. Something unspoken passed between them. Small, but powerful, like the beginning of a storm that neither of them saw coming. And somewhere deep inside Anthony, something stirred. Not sleep, not yet, but something close, something warm. Oma woke up like someone that had just been promoted by destiny. She sat up on the bed in the maid's quarters, stretched dramatically, and declared, Good morning, future millionaire. One of the maids on the other bed hissed, Please, reduce your volume. This is not market. Oma smiled sweetly. Sorry, I forgot. Rich people's house? Even noise is expensive. Another maid muttered under her breath, This one will not last. Oma turned instantly. Don't worry, I came with spare life. Even if I expire, I will renew. Dressed in her crisp black and white apron, curly hair tied neatly in a bun, Oma stepped into the mansion like she owned 2% shares already. She cleaned. Fast, efficient, but with commentary. As she wiped the glass table in the living room, she spoke to it. Shine well. Your owner is rich. Don't embarrass him. One maid passing by paused. Who are you talking to? Oma didn't look up. Motivation. Everything needs encouragement. In the kitchen, she was arranging plates when she suddenly gasped. Mama Grace. Mama Grace turned. What is it? Oma held up a golden spoon. This spoon, if it enters my village, they will give it a title. Mama Grace burst out laughing. Focus on your work. I am focusing. I'm just appreciating wealth. The other maids gathered later, as expected. Did you see how she talks? She thinks this place is comedy show. Let's see how long she survives. But one maid, Ngozi, smiled. I like her. At least this house is not looking like cemetery again. Upstairs, Anthony stood behind his glass window, watching the compound absent-mindedly. Then he heard it. Laughter. Loud, uncontrolled, different. He frowned slightly. What is that noise? His assistant cleared his throat. Sir, the new maid. Anthony didn't respond, but he kept listening. Something about that laughter. It didn't annoy him. It pulled at something. That evening, Anthony walked into the dining area, then paused. He turned to Mama Grace. I want dinner in my room tonight. Mama Grace raised an eyebrow slightly. Your room? Yes. Okay, but as she turned away, she smiled to herself. It has started. In the kitchen, Mama Grace handed the tray to Oma. Take this to his room. Oma froze. His room? Yes. The main room? Yes. The billionaire room? Mama Grace sighed. Oma, go. Oma carried the tray carefully, muttering, if I break this plate, they will use me to replace it. She knocked. Come in. Oma entered slowly, then stopped. Her eyes widened. God, when? The room was breathtaking. White, gold, soft lighting, luxury everywhere. Even the air looked expensive. Anthony sat on his bed, laptop open, calm as ever. Oma walked in carefully and placed the tray beside him. Your food, sir. Silence. She turned to leave, paused, turned back, looked at the sofa, looked at him. Then, she sat down. Anthony looked up slowly, confused, but said nothing. Oma smiled. Sir, should I go? Silence. She nodded. Okay, I will stay small. Anthony blinked once. She started. Sir, do you know in my village, one goat nearly killed somebody because of insult? Anthony picked up his spoon. No. It happened. She leaned forward dramatically. This goat, very wicked goat, somebody insulted its mother. Anthony paused mid-bite. Goat has mother? Oma gasped. Sir, every goat has a mother. How will it be born? Anthony almost smiled. She continued, acting everything. The goat looked at her like this. She widened her eyes ridiculously. Anthony lowered his spoon slightly. Then what? Oma lit up. Ah, you are interested. She stood up halfway, acting the scene. The goat started chasing her. The woman ran. Her wrapper fell. The whole village gathered. Anthony's shoulders shook slightly. Oma clapped her hands. Sir, I laughed until my destiny almost shifted. Anthony tried to stay serious, but failed. A soft laugh escaped him. Oma froze dramatically. She pointed at him. You laughed. He cleared his throat quickly. I didn't. You did, I heard it. Should I continue? He shook his head slightly. Then, Oma grinned like she just signed a contract. She talked and talked and talked. Stories, jokes, village drama. Her voice filled the room. Warm, alive, different. Anthony ate quietly, but his mind wasn't on the food. It was on her energy, her light, her freedom, something he hadn't felt in years. Then slowly, her voice began to fade. Her words slowed, her head tilted, and suddenly, silence. Anthony looked up. Oma had fallen asleep on his sofa, just like that. Mouth slightly open, peaceful, unbothered. Anthony stared at her. Unbelievable. He stood up slowly, walked to her. For a moment, he just looked. Then he picked up a blanket, covered her gently, careful, soft, like she might break. He stepped back, still watching her. Something in his chest softened. Anthony returned to his bed, laid down, stared at the ceiling. Then, he closed his eyes. And for the first time in 5 years, no fear, no tension, no 12:30 a.m. Minutes passed, then sleep came, deep, heavy, peaceful, like a long-lost friend finally found its way back home. On the sofa, Oma slept peacefully, without knowing what she had done. On the bed, Anthony slept deeply, without knowing how. But somewhere in that quiet, beautiful, golden white room, something had changed. Not just sleep, not just peace, but destiny itself had shifted. And neither of them was ready for what was coming next. Morning came gently. Soft sunlight slipped through the tall glass windows, dancing across the white and gold bedroom like it paid rent. Everything looked calm, peaceful, too peaceful. Oma was the first to wake up. She stretched lazily. Ah, this sleep, She froze. Her eyes widened slowly. She looked around. Gold, white, luxury, silence. Then her brain reset. Wait, She sat up instantly. Where am I? She looked down. Soft, creamy sofa. Then she turned and saw him. Anthony, sleeping, on his bed, peacefully, like a baby that just drank expensive milk. Oma's mouth dropped open. I am finished. She stood up quietly, hands on her head. God, how did I sleep in billionaire's bedroom? Is this how people disappear? She tiptoed, stopped, turned back to look at him again. Still sleeping, calm, breathing evenly. Oma whispered dramatically, Sir, if this is a dream, please wake up before they sack me. No response. She clutched her chest. I cannot die like this. My village people will laugh at me. She carried her slippers in her hand, walking on her toes like a thief in a Nollywood movie. Each step, careful, slow, suspicious. She reached the door, paused, turned the handle gently. Click. She froze, looked back. Anthony didn't move. She exhaled slowly, opened the door, and slipped out. Then, immediately, she ran. Oma burst into the maid's quarters like she just escaped prison. One maid sat up. Why are you running like Nepa brought light? Oma placed her hand on her chest, breathing hard. I almost died. Another maid frowned. What happened? Oma leaned closer and whispered loudly. I slept. In his room. Silence. Then, all the maids sat up. What do you mean you slept in his room? Are you mad? Do you want to be sacked before breakfast? Oma covered her face. I don't know how it happened. I was talking, then sleep just came like thief. One maid shook her head. This girl is finished. Another added, Pack your load. Oma gasped. Load? What load? I just arrived. Meanwhile, Anthony was still asleep, peaceful, undisturbed. For the first time in 5 years, morning came without fear. No sudden waking, no panic, no emptiness. Just rest. Anthony opened his eyes slowly. He blinked, sat up, looked around, confused. Morning? He checked the time, then froze. Wait. He ran his hand through his hair. I slept? He stood up quickly, walked around the room. Nothing broken, nothing strange. Then his eyes landed on the sofa, empty, and it clicked. Oma. He sat down slowly on the bed, thinking, processing. Last night, her voice, her laughter, her presence. Then, sleep. Deep, peaceful sleep. Anthony stood up again, sharp, focused. It's her. Oma was trying to blend into the kitchen like nothing happened. But her face? Guilty. Very guilty. Mama Grace noticed immediately. Oma! Oma jumped. Yes, Ma. Why are you looking like someone that stole goat? Oma forced a smile. I did not steal goat. I respect goat. Mama Grace narrowed her eyes. Oma leaned closer, lowered her voice. Mama Grace, I slept in his room. Mama Grace blinked once. You what? Accidentally. Before Mama Grace could respond, a voice echoed from the staircase. Oma! Everything froze. Oma turned slowly, like generator that is about to spoil. Anthony stood there, calm, unreadable, dangerous. Oma swallowed. Sir? Then she turned and tried to run. Come back! She froze mid-step, closed her eyes. Jesus, I am coming. Oma walked back slowly, head down, hands together like she was about to beg for her life. Sir, I'm sorry. It was not intentional. Sleep just came, and I didn't invite it. I will not do it again. I respect your bed. I respect your room. I respect your sleep. Oma. She stopped, looked up slowly. Yes, sir? Serve my breakfast in my room. Silence. Complete silence. Even the spoons in the kitchen paused. Oma blinked. Sir, my breakfast. In your room? Yes. She pointed at herself. Me? Yes. Oma looked around, confused, suspicious. Sir, are you sure nothing is wrong with you? Mama Grace coughed to hide her laughter. Anthony's lips twitched slightly. Just do as I said. Anthony turned to all the maids, his voice calm but firm. From today, no one serves me food except Oma. Gasps filled the room. Shock, jealousy, confusion. One maid whispered, Ha! It has happened. Another muttered, this girl used something. Oma stood there, still confused, still shocked, still trying to understand her life. The maids were already gathered like early morning news reporters. Did you hear what Olga said? Only Oma will serve him food. Ha! This is no longer maid work, this is promotion with benefits. Ngozi whispered, trying not to laugh. Maybe she will soon collect staff of office. Another maid hissed, don't joke, this thing is serious. In the kitchen, Oma stood in front of the breakfast tray like it was an exam she didn't study for. Bread, eggs, tea, everything arranged perfectly. She folded her arms. So na me de do VIP service now? Mama Grace entered quietly. Oma jumped. Ma, carry the food. Oma leaned closer. Mama Grace, are you sure he is okay? Because this behavior is behaving somehow. Mama Grace smiled knowingly. Just go. Oma picked up the tray slowly. If anything happens to me, please tell my mother I tried. Oma walked through the long, polished hallway, each step echoing like drum beats. Left leg, right leg, don't fall, don't fall. She reached his door, paused, took a deep breath, knocked. Come in. Her heart jumped. She entered. The same room, white, gold, calm, dangerous for her destiny. Anthony sat on the bed, already awake, looking like a man that had slept for the first time in forever. Which he had. Oma walked in carefully and placed the tray. Your breakfast, sir. Silence. She turned immediately, time to escape. But, Oma. She froze, closed her eyes briefly. Yes, sir. She turned slowly. Anthony looked at her, calm, observing. Then he said, so, no story today? Oma blinked. Story? Yes. Yesterday you talked like radio station. Today you are quiet. Oma straightened instantly. Ah, sir, that one was mistake. I have corrected my behavior. I am now a silent maid. Anthony raised an eyebrow. Silent? Yes, sir, very silent. You will not even know I exist. He leaned back slightly. I knew you existed last night. Oma's eyes widened. Sir? You slept in my room. She gasped. I said sorry. I didn't complain. She paused, confused, very confused. You didn't? No. Oma looked around like hidden cameras were watching her. This is suspicious. Anthony gestured. Sit. Oma jumped back. Sit? Where? He pointed at the chair. Oma placed her hand on her chest. Sir, I am just a maid. If I sit here, my ancestors will faint. Anthony almost smiled. Sit. She slowly sat down like someone entering a dangerous contract. Back straight, eyes alert, ready to run. Anthony started eating. Oma watched him, then looked at the food, then back at him. Sir, are you sure this food is not poisoned? He paused mid-bite. Why would it be poisoned? Oma shrugged. Because my life is moving too fast. Something must be wrong. Anthony chuckled quietly. As they ate, something shifted. The silence wasn't awkward anymore. It was soft, comfortable, different. Anthony looked at her again. Really looked. Her expressive eyes, her lively face, the way she couldn't stay quiet even when she tried. Oma. Yes, sir? Talk. She blinked. You want me to talk? Yes. Oma dropped her spoon dramatically. Sir, you don't know what you are asking for. I do. You will regret it. I won't. She leaned forward slowly. Don't say I didn't warn you. Anthony relaxed. Continue. And just like that, Oma came alive again. Sir, let me tell you what happened in my street one time. She started acting, talking, gesturing, her voice filling the room again. Anthony ate slowly, listening, watching. Something about her presence made everything lighter, easier, alive. He didn't interrupt, didn't stop her, didn't want to. Meanwhile, the maids were restless. She has been there too long. What are they doing inside? Breakfast does not take this long. One maid whispered angrily. I will go and check. Mama Grace appeared like a warning spirit. Try it. The maid stopped immediately. Mama Grace crossed her arms. No one goes upstairs. They all kept quiet, but their minds? Burning. Oma finished one of her dramatic stories. And that is how the chicken nearly became a politician. Anthony laughed. Openly this time, no hiding. Oma froze, then smiled slowly. You like my stories? He didn't deny it. They're interesting. She placed her hand on her chest proudly. I am a full package. He looked at her quietly, something deeper in his gaze now. Not just amusement, not just curiosity. Something warmer, stronger, dangerous. Oma stood up quickly. I should go and work. Anthony didn't stop her, but his eyes followed her, careful, thoughtful. As she reached the door, she paused, turned slightly, looked at him. Sir? Yes. Why me? He held her gaze. For now, I don't know. A small pause, then he added quietly, but I will find out. Oma stepped out of the room slowly, her heart beating faster than normal. This work is not normal, she whispered to herself. Inside the room, Anthony leaned back, thinking. For the first time in years, his mind wasn't heavy, his chest wasn't tight, and for the first time, he was looking forward to night, because he knew, if she was there, sleep would come. But what neither of them knew was this: it wasn't just sleep that was coming, it was love. Deep, intense, complicated, and very, very dangerous. From that morning, nothing in the mansion was normal again. Not the silence, not the routine, and definitely not Anthony Alamide. Before, Anthony used to dread night. Now, he was waiting for it, waiting for dinner, waiting for stories, waiting for her. Even his schedule began to change. Meetings ended faster. Calls became shorter. One confused business partner asked on the phone, Sir, are you okay? You sound happy. Anthony paused. Is that a problem? The man panicked. No, sir. Happiness is good, very good. Please continue. Anthony ended the call and shook his head. People are afraid of joy. Oma had no idea what was happening. She was just doing her job, with extra talking. That evening she walked into his room again with dinner. Sir, today's story is premium. I even practiced it in the kitchen. Anthony looked up. You practiced? Yes, I don't deliver low-quality stories. He leaned back slightly. Proceed. She placed the tray, sat comfortably like she owned shares now, and began. Sir, one time my neighbor wanted to impress a girl. Anthony already knew this would be chaotic. And he was right. As Oma acted the entire story, voices, expressions, even background sound effects, Anthony laughed. Not small laughter, not hidden laughter, full, free, uncontrolled. At one point, he held his stomach. Stop, stop, this is too much. Oma clapped excitedly. I knew it. This story has never failed. She stood up, bowing dramatically. Thank you, tickets are sold out. Anthony shook his head, smiling. You're unbelievable. Oma pointed proudly. I am limited edition. Meanwhile, the maids were boiling. She's laughing with him again. She's spending too much time upstairs. This is not maid work. This is audition. One of the jealous maids snapped. I will not accept this. Who is she? Ngozi rolled her eyes. Relax. If your destiny is inside his room, it will call you. The maid hissed. My destiny is not foolish. Mama Grace stood quietly in the corner, watching, smiling. It has started. Days passed, and something inside Anthony changed completely. He started noticing things, small things, the way Oma laughed without fear, the way she spoke without calculation, the way she brought life into a house that had forgotten how to breathe. One evening, after she left his room, he whispered to himself, What is happening to me? But deep down, he already knew. Back in the maid's room, Oma sat on her bed, staring into space. Her friend Ngozi nudged her. What is it? Oma shook her head. I don't understand that man. Ngozi smirked. Which man? Oma whispered. Oga. Ngozi gasped dramatically. You have upgraded to Oga? Oma hit her lightly. Be serious. Then she lowered her voice. He looks at me somehow. Ngozi leaned closer. How? Oma struggled to explain. Like he is seeing something only he can see. Ngozi grinned. My dear, that is called interest. Oma's eyes widened. No, don't say that. I am just a maid. And he is just a billionaire. Life is unfair. The next day, Anthony sat in his car, thinking. Then suddenly, he turned to his driver. Stop at the mall. The driver blinked. Sir? Stop. Inside the luxury boutique, Anthony stood surrounded by expensive dresses. The attendant smiled politely. Sir, what are you looking for? He paused, then said simply, something beautiful. For who, sir? He didn't hesitate. For someone important. Minutes later, he held it. A creamy, elegant dress. Soft, classy, stunning. Just like he stopped the thought. Wrap it, back at the mansion. Anthony walked into the living room. All the maids straightened immediately. Olga is back. He looked around. Oma. She appeared from the kitchen. Yes, see. He handed her the bag. She paused. Sir? Open it. Oma opened it slowly, pulled out the dress, and froze. Her mouth opened, closed, opened again. Sir, this dress can pay my rent till Jesus comes back. The maids gasped. Jealousy exploded silently. Anthony spoke calmly. Get ready. You're coming with me to a gala tomorrow. Silence. Complete. Dead silence. Oma blinked rapidly. Me? Yes, she pointed at herself. This me, or another me? You. She stepped back. Sir, I am your maid. Oh, I know. Then why? Because I said so. The moment Anthony left, the room exploded. He chose her? For gala? This is not normal again. One maid whispered bitterly, she has finished us. And Ngozi laughed. My dear, she has just started. Later that night, Oma sat on her bed, holding the dress, touching it gently, still in disbelief. Why me? She looked at her reflection. Simple girl, village girl, talkative girl. Then she whispered softly, what is happening to my life? In his room, Anthony stood by the window again. But this time, he wasn't empty. He wasn't restless. He wasn't broken. He was thinking about her. Her smile, her voice, her chaos, her peace. He exhaled slowly. I'm in trouble, because this feeling, it wasn't small, it wasn't simple, it was deep, strong, and completely unavoidable. Tomorrow, the gala, the world would see her, jealousy would rise, feelings would deepen, and hearts would be tested. But for now, in the quiet of the night, Anthony lay on his bed, closed his eyes, and once again, because of her, he slept. The mansion was not calm that evening. It was charged. Like NEPA just brought light, and everybody was rushing to charge their phone at once. Because today, Oma was not just a maid. Oma was going to a gala with the billionaire. Inside the maid's quarters, chaos, pure chaos. Ngozi held the dress like it was a newborn baby. Careful, this cloth is more expensive than my future. Oma stood in the middle of the room, confused. I don't understand. Is this really my life? One maid hissed from the corner. It is not your life. It is temporary opportunity. Oma turned, smiled sweetly. Don't worry, even temporary things can change permanent destiny. Ngozi clapped. Say it again. They helped her dress up. The creamy gown flowed perfectly on her body. Soft, elegant, royal. Her curly hair was styled neatly, still in a bun but now refined. Light makeup, simple jewelry. Nothing too loud, but everything perfect. When she looked in the mirror, she froze. Who is this? Ngozi placed her hands on her shoulders. That is the girl that is about to scatter rich people's peace. Oma gasped. Please don't scatter anything. I just started work. Anthony stood in the living room. Black suit, sharp, powerful, waiting, calm on the outside, but inside, something was moving. Then, footsteps, soft, elegant. He turned and saw her, Oma. For a moment, time stopped. His breath caught. Wow. The word escaped before he could stop it. Oma shifted shyly. Sir, is it too much? He shook his head slowly. It's not enough. She blinked. Eh? You look, he paused, searching for words. Dangerous. Oma's eyes widened. Dangerous? I knew it. This dress is not safe. Anthony laughed softly. No, not that kind of dangerous. Mama Grace appeared behind them, smiling like she just won a lottery. My children, go before I start crying. Oma whispered. Why are you calling us children? This is suspicious. The car pulled up to the grand gala venue. Lights, luxury, rich people everywhere. Cars that looked like they didn't greet potholes. Oma held her breath. Sir. Yes? If I embarrass you, please pretend you don't know me. Anthony glanced at her. Too late. He stepped out, walked to her side, opened the door, held out his hand. Oma stared at it. This hand is official? Take it. She placed her hand in his, softly, carefully, and together they stepped into the night. The moment they entered, heads turned, eyes widened, whispers spread like wildfire. Is that Anthony Olamide? Who is that girl? She's beautiful. She's not from our circle. Oma leaned closer. Sir, they are talking about me like I stole something. Anthony's voice was calm. Let them talk. She nodded. Okay, but if they insult me, I will respond. He almost smiled. I know. And then she appeared. Anthony's ex, elegant, tall, dressed like money itself, but her smile, sharp, dangerous. She walked toward them slowly. Olamide. Anthony's expression changed slightly, controlled, careful. Good evening. Scanning, judging, dismissing. And who is this? Before Anthony could speak, Oma stepped forward, smiling brightly. Good evening, Ma. I am. She paused, looked at Anthony, then back at the woman. Important. Anthony choked on a laugh. The ex raised an eyebrow. Important? Oma nodded confidently. Yes, very important. Even I don't understand how. Anthony turned slightly, hiding his smile. The ex's eyes hardened. I see. Throughout the night, it was obvious, painfully obvious. Anthony didn't leave Oma's side. Not once. He introduced her to people, protected her, watched her, like she mattered, like she belonged. And that burned. The ex watched from a distance, glass in hand, eyes cold. She will not last, she muttered. Oma tried her best, but she was still. Oma. A waiter passed. She whispered loudly. Sir, this small food, is it for decoration or eating? Anthony leaned closer. Eat small. She picked one, tasted it, paused. Is this food confused? He laughed quietly. Behave. I am behaving. It's the food that is misbehaving. Later, drinks were served. Anthony leaned close. Don't drink too much. Oma nodded. Yes, sir. 5 minutes later, she was holding another glass, then another. Then, confidence entered her body. Sir, this place is shining too much. My eyes are doing overtime. Anthony sighed. I warned you. I am fine, she declared. She stood up dramatically. I want to greet everybody. He grabbed her hand quickly. Sit down. She blinked at him. You are controlling me. Yes. Okay. She sat immediately. By the time they left, Oma was fully drunk, happy, talking nonsense. Sir, you are a good man. I approve you. Anthony shook his head, smiling helplessly. You're unbelievable. He carried her into the car, gently, carefully, like she was something precious. He carried her upstairs, into his room, laid her gently on the bed. She mumbled softly, Sir, don't sack me. His heart tightened. I won't. She smiled in her sleep. Good. Anthony sat beside her for a moment, watching her, quiet, soft, real. Then slowly, he lay down beside her, exhausted, peaceful. And once again, sleep came, deep, easy, natural. That night, they slept, close, calm, unaware that everything had changed, because by morning, nothing would be the same again. Morning did not come quietly. It came with drama. Downstairs, the doorbell rang. Mama Grace opened it and nearly jumped. Doctor. The elderly man smiled warmly. Good morning. I came to check on Anthony. Mama Grace nodded quickly. Yes, yes. Come in. But as they walked inside, Something felt off. Too quiet, even for this house. Mama Grace frowned slightly. He is still in his room. The doctor adjusted his glasses. At this time? That's unusual. Mama Grace nodded slowly. Very unusual. They climbed the stairs, step by step. Mama Grace knocked. Anthony? No answer. She knocked again. Anthony! Still nothing. The doctor frowned. This is not normal. Mama Grace's heart began to beat faster. Something is wrong. She tried the handle. Locked. She turned to the doctor. I'm opening it. The door creaked open slowly. Mama Grace stepped in, then froze. The doctor stepped in and froze too. On the bed, Anthony, sleeping, peacefully. And beside him, Oma, also sleeping, peacefully, close, calm, like it was the most normal thing in the world. Silence, deep silence. Then, Mama Grace whispered, Jesus is Lord. The doctor blinked rapidly. I have been treating this boy for 5 years. He pointed slowly. And this is what works? Mama Grace covered her mouth, trying not to laugh. It seemed so. They both stood there for a few seconds longer, watching, processing, shocked. Then Mama Grace whispered, Let's go. The doctor nodded quickly. Yes, before we see what we are not supposed to see. They quietly closed the door and left. Inside the room, Oma moved slightly, stretched, then slowly opened her eyes. Ah, she smiled. That sleep was. She turned her head and saw him, Anthony, right beside her, sleeping, close, very close. Her brain shut down, then restarted violently. Wait! She jumped up slightly, then froze again. Why am I on his bed? Memory hit her like slap. Gala, drink, car, blur. Ah, I am finished. She placed both hands on her head. I have crossed the line. I have entered prison. She tried to quietly leave the bed, slowly, carefully, but just as she moved, a hand grabbed her wrist, firm, warm. She froze completely, slowly turned. Anthony's eyes were open, watching her, calm, soft. Where are you going? Oma swallowed. Nowhere. Then why are you sneaking? She blinked rapidly. I was not sneaking. I was relocating. He raised an eyebrow. From my bed? Oma covered her face. Sir, I am sorry, I did not plan this. The drink planned it. Anthony sat up slowly, still holding her wrist, but gently. I brought you here. Oma paused. You did? Yes. She blinked again, confused. You didn't drag yourself here. She exhaled slightly. Okay. Small relief. Then quickly added, but I still slept beside you. Anthony looked at her, quiet, thoughtful. And I slept. She stopped. You slept? Yes. Peacefully? Yes. Oma's expression changed, from panic to curiosity. Again? He nodded slowly. Again. Silence filled the room, but this silence was different, heavy, emotional, real. Anthony looked at her deeply. Oma. She looked up. Yes, sir? For 5 years, I couldn't sleep. Her heart skipped. But with you, he paused, his voice softer now. I sleep. Oma didn't joke, didn't interrupt, didn't run. She just listened. Because for the first time, she understood. This wasn't about food, or work, or coincidence. This was something else, something deeper. Sir, I think I should go and work. No. She blinked. No, no work today. Oma gasped. No work? Sir, please don't sack me with enjoyment. He almost smiled. I'm not sacking you. Then why no work? Because I said so. She narrowed her eyes slightly. This is how rich people behave. Mama Grace stood in the kitchen, holding a tray. The maids gathered around. We will take it to him. No. Mama Grace's voice was firm. I will take it. One maid frowned. Why? Mama Grace looked at her sharply. Because I said so. They all went quiet. Something told them. Today was not a normal day. Mama Grace entered the room quietly, placed the tray, looked at both of them, smiled knowingly, then left. Oma stood awkwardly. I'm sorry, Mama Grace saw me like this. Anthony shrugged slightly. She's not blind. Oma covered her face again. I cannot face her in this life. Anthony gestured. Sit. Oma hesitated. Again? Yes, she sat slowly, still shy, still confused, still processing her life. They started eating, quiet at first. Then, Oma spoke, softly. Sir? Yes. This thing that is happening. She struggled for words. Is it normal? Anthony looked at her, honest. No. She nodded slowly. I knew it. Then she added, but I don't hate it. He held her gaze. Neither do I. Silence again. Then, Anthony spoke. I think about you. Oma froze. I wait for you. Her heart raced. I feel different when you're around. She swallowed hard. Oma. She looked at him, and then he said it. I love you. Oma blinked. Once, twice. Then, she stood up suddenly. Sir, wait. She started pacing. This is serious. This is very serious. Anthony watched her, amused. She pointed at him. You are billionaire. Yes. She pointed at herself. I am maid. Yes. She clutched her head. This equation is not balancing. Anthony laughed softly. It will. She stopped, looked at him, heart beating fast. Are you sure? He stood up slowly, walked closer, very close. I've never been more sure of anything. Oma looked at him, really looked at him, not as her boss, not as a billionaire, but as a man who couldn't sleep, until she came. Her voice softened. You are serious? Yes. She smiled slowly, small, shy, but I will still talk too much. He smiled back. I know. As Oma stepped out later, all eyes were on her. Jealous, curious, sharp. One maid whispered, It has happened. Another replied, No, it has just started. And they were right. Because love had entered the mansion. Real love, messy love, dangerous love, and nothing would ever be the same again. From that morning, the mansion changed completely. Not slowly, not quietly, but like someone switched on life itself. Anthony Alamide was no longer just the cold, untouchable billionaire. Now, he smiled. He laughed. He even waited outside the kitchen sometimes. Yes, the same man that owned companies, jets, and half the city was standing near pots of stew. One afternoon, Mama Grace caught him there. She folded her arms. Anthony, what are you doing here? He cleared his throat. I'm inspecting. Oma's voice came from inside. Sir, if you are inspecting, please inspect quietly. You are distracting the food. Mama Grace burst into laughter. See your life? Anthony shook his head, but he was smiling. God has answered somebody's prayer. But not everyone was happy. The maids, still whispering, still watching. And then the ex returned, uninvited, unsmiling, dangerous. She walked into the mansion like she owned part of the air. Olamide. Anthony's expression hardened slightly. What do you want? Her eyes shifted to Oma, standing there, calm, unshaken. I came to see how far this joke has gone. Oma smiled politely. Welcome. The joke is now a full movie. Anthony almost laughed. The ex stepped closer, lowering her voice. She's not your level. Oma responded immediately. Madam, level is not by money. It's by peace, and I have it. Silence, sharp, heavy. Anthony looked at Oma, and something in his chest tightened. Pride, pure pride. That night, Anthony stood in front of everyone. Staff, silence. I want to make something clear. All eyes on him. Oma is not just a maid in this house. Murmurs spread. He continued. She is my choice. Gasps, shock, jealousy, everything exploded quietly. Then he turned to Oma, walked to her, held her hand, right there in front of everyone. And I will marry her. Oma froze. Sir? He smiled softly. I told you, I'm serious. She looked around, at the maids, at Mama Grace, at the world that suddenly felt too big. Then she whispered, Will there be food at the wedding? Anthony blinked. What? She nodded seriously. Because I cannot attend any event without food. The entire room burst into laughter. Even the jealous maids couldn't hold it. Anthony shook his head. Yes, Oma, there will be food. She smiled widely. Then I agree. Their wedding was not small. It was not quiet. It was not normal. It was grand, beautiful, filled with people who once whispered, now watching in disbelief. Oma walked down the aisle, not as a maid, but as a queen, her creamy dress flowing like royalty, brighter than the chandeliers. Anthony stood waiting, calm, certain, at peace. That night, after everything, after the noise, the celebration, the laughter, they returned to the same room, white, gold, beautiful, but now different, because it was no longer empty. Oma jumped on the bed dramatically. Ah, my new office. Anthony laughed. This is your office? Yes, I will be managing this bed full-time. He lay beside her, pulling her close, softly. Stay. She looked at him. I'm not going anywhere. That night, Anthony closed his eyes and sleep came. Not because of medicine, not because of exhaustion, but because of love. Real, deep, peaceful love. The kind that silences storms, the kind that heals wounds, the kind that brings a man back to life. The mansion was no longer quiet. Now it was filled with laughter, arguments, drama. Anthony, you ate my chicken. It's our chicken. No, it was emotionally mine. Mama Grace would shake her head. These two will not kill me. And every night, without fail, Anthony Olamide slept, deeply, peacefully, like a man who had finally found what money could never buy. Sometimes, what you're searching for is not in wealth, power, or control.